In case you missed it, at the end of last week, there was another huge development in corporate media's information embargo in the form of a UK Telegraph article headlined, "Lockdown Effects Fear to be Killing More People Than COVID." All I can say is, what? And look at the subheadline. Unexplained excess deaths outstrip those from virus as medics call figures terrifying. In other words, although US and Canadian corporate media are ignoring them, with some help from the government agencies, excess deaths just went mainstream. Now think back with me to just a few months ago, hell, even a few days ago. Did you ever think you'd see the day prior to this we'd get spoon-fed the lockdown effects euphemisms? Let's first consider the profound implications of taking this lockdown effects nonsense at face value. The Telegraph article reported that UK data suggests that the effects of lockdowns may now be killing more people than are dying of COVID. That can't be good, right? It said the paper understands that the Department of Health has ordered an investigation into the figures. And so it begins. The blame game. Of course, the government, always willing to accept responsibility, will of course have to blame somebody. But who could that somebody else be? I know, someone who gave it bad advice. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty dire, the paper admitted. The number of excess deaths now from COVID dwarfs the number linked to the virus. Yes, social justice warriors, dwarfs them. People are dying from other things besides COVID, so much that they dwarf COVID deaths. That means it's so bad they can't use any more cute, non-alarming synonyms, like SADS. So what's a tyrant to do? Time for plan B. The rest of the article deflects the phenomena right into deferred care during lockdowns. That will, of course, buy them some time and muddy the real problem for a little while longer. But the deferred care excuse won't work 12 months from now. It's a band-aid, and it's not going to stop the hemorrhaging for long as reality continues to unfold. Even accepting the article's unlikely premise that lockdown effects or deferred care are the cause of all the unexplained strokes, clots, and heart attacks, lockdown effects reflect awfully on public health agencies. That rationale suggests that public health experts failed, to consider the now obvious downstream effects. And worse, anybody with access to the internet will quickly discover upon doing a remedial search that scientists like Bachitra, Koldorf, Malone, and fellow flat earthers warned about those very same lockdown effects back at the time the decisions were made in real time. Which leaves public health officials with the awkward reality of claiming they didn't know. They just ignored the science, which, as I understand it, is the sin of all sins that cannot be forgiven by the COVIDians. So once lockdown effects become the default explanation, there will be a massive backlash against public health for failing to fashion a COVID response to account for side effects like deferred care. Of course, it makes no sense to kill more people with the mitigations than those that would die from COVID, especially when those mitigations have not shown any clear benefit, and especially considering the vast economic and political costs of those mitigations. But then again, we're talking about pompous, self-righteous, arrogant, and disdainful experts here, right? And accepting responsibility goes against everything these fine folks stand for. In the US, the CDC has withheld the excess deaths figures in the US for 2.5 months now, citing a software upgrade, or maybe the system simply crashed trying to calculate the monkeypox risk. After all, the number is so astronomical, right? Do you suppose it's possible those numbers, like the UK's, are so obvious and grim and embarrassing that a complete reorganization of the CDC would be required? And that, to show fast and effective action, President Biden might strip handling pandemics completely away from a disgraced CDC and reassign that important job to some other agency? Say it isn't so. That's so like conspiracy theory, right? Golly, what a coincidence. They have one waiting and ready to go. The new agency, the ASPR. The ASPR wouldn't have made those kinds of mistakes. It's not all bureaucratically bloated and packed with political hacks and wannabes. Not like the CDC or other government agencies. No, no, never. ASPR employees don't care about money and stuff. They're just about helping people. They are the very definition of selfless bureaucrats. You'll see. So, problem solved. You're welcome. I'm sure this new and improved agency model will catch on in other Western nations in no time, sort of like a virus. So, once again, we note that the news is not about excess deaths. Those of us who've been paying attention have known that for months now. The news is that the corporate media embargo on talking about excess deaths, instead of just hoping they'd never see the light of day, is apparently off and is dying a justly due death. So once again, we've pivoted into the next narrative. The sleight of hand over lockdown effects causing cancer, heart attacks, and strokes, but not the other types of injuries from deferred care. It's just a trade-off. They're throwing public health officials, aka the useful idiots, under the bus. In fact, one such idiot recently announced he's planning on retiring in December. Our very own beloved God-man, Dr. Fauci. Of course, they're hoping that this will deflect the public wrath away from more politically charged and difficult causes of the problem. You know, like needles and stuff. But I suspect that it won't last. It will catch up with them, as I suspect these public health narcissists might not like being thrown under the bus and might actually fight back. Hubris and ego really have no limits. Second, the deferred care excuse can only last so long because it just doesn't work anymore. Maybe they are hoping that the excess deaths will resolve by themselves after a while, which could happen. You never know, maybe. But in order to push that hopeful outcome along, they'll need to have a moratorium on, come on, you know it, rhymes with rejections. But wait, that undermines the past 2 years. Seems like Lucy has some splaining to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account, and I will see you next time.